These are the things you should and shouldn't do on your next trip to Cancun and the surrounding areas. The first thing you shouldn't do is do not deal with the taxis at the Cancun airport. You'll be put into a very high pressure sales situation, and the taxis are run by the mafia, so definitely avoid that. Something you should do is to take the ADO bus from the airport if you're staying in one of the cities or towns along the coast and not at a resort. For example, if you're staying in Playa del Carmen or in Tulum or Cozumel or Bacalar, the ADO bus is going to be a great option for you to affordably get from the Cancun airport to where you're staying. And after you go through customs in Cancun and you get your luggage, you're going to walk out there and you're going to see the ADO bus booth. And there will probably be a line of people waiting to get tickets because it's one of the best transportation options from the Cancun airport. If you're searching online looking for a resort to stay at on your next trip, don't be fooled when the resort says the resort name and then Cancun, or the resort name and Tulum, because oftentimes it is actually not in Cancun or in Tulum, but reasonably close. For example, I'm staying at the Waldorf Astoria Cancun, but it's actually between Cancun and Puerto Morelos. And another example is the Conrad Tulum, which in reality is located in Cozumel. And if you're staying at a place like where I'm staying and it's not all-inclusive, seriously consider renting a car, especially if the resort is isolated. Like if you're staying in a place that's not all-inclusive, but like you're walking distance from everything in Playa del Carmen, no problem if you don't have a car. You're going to be able to walk to pretty much wherever you want to go or take a short taxi ride. However, like this resort, it's very isolated. There's no stores nearby or anything like that. And all the stuff inside the resort is pretty expensive. So having a car gives us a lot of freedom for our vacation here. And it also helps us save a bunch of money by going out to Puerto Morelos for a lot of our meals. The next don't I have for you is if you're renting a car, do not rent from Hertz. Okay, so I booked my ticket on Aeromexico's website, my plane ticket to get here. And then after I purchased that, they offered me a car rental from Hertz, and it was a pretty good price, or a decent price at least. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I think it'd be convenient to have a car while there. So I went ahead and purchased that. Well, then I got here to Hertz, and it turns out they're running a giant scam operation. And when I went to reveal their scam to you guys, they tried to put me in jail. So it's a total nightmare. Do not rent from Hertz, and be very careful about renting from the other major car rental companies here as well. But down in the description of this video, I'm going to link to a small car rental company that's honest and reliable and isn't running a scam on you. So be sure to check that out if you want to rent a car in Cancun. The next thing you should do is go explore outside of your resort, like especially if you have a rental car, but you can also hire a cab for the day or something like that. You might not realize it, but there's a long history of Mayan civilizations here, and there's ancient ruins around. For example, I highly recommend the Tulum archaeological site and the Coba ruins as well. Both of those are a really cool experience. The next thing you shouldn't do is don't believe the lies the salespeople will tell you at the Cancun airport. For example, one of these big lies is they'll have a fake price sheet laminated in their hands, and they'll be trying to sell you a taxi to wherever you're going. And if you want to compare the prices of like an ADO bus, for example, to your destination versus a taxi, well, they'll have highly elevated prices on their fake sheet to show you, well, here's the cost of the ADO, here's the cost of a taxi, and it will make the taxi cost look reasonable. And another lie they'll tell you, they'll ask you if you have transportation yet, and if you say yes, they'll ask you, oh, who are you going with? And then you say the name of the company, whether it's some shuttle company or the ADO bus, and they'll say, oh, they're no longer in business, or oh, the ADO bus actually isn't running right now. But these lies are very common because they're just trying to steal a sale from that other company and sell you an overpriced taxi. As a matter of fact, this just happened to one of my friends who lives here. He lives right down the road in Puerto Morelos. And just to see, he went up to one of the taxi guys and he's like, how much to Puerto Morelos? And they quoted him like, 1,400 pesos or some ridiculous number for the short drive it is to Puerto Morelos. And he goes, no, I think I'll just take the ADO. And the guy goes, oh, actually the ADO is closed right now. And he's like, oh, really? And then he actually went to the ADO booth and asked them if they're still running. And they're like, yes, we're going to Puerto Morelos every 15 minutes. The next thing you should do is if you're staying at one of the hotels that's operated by a major hotel company here, be sure to check out what credit card options are available from that brand. So think like if you're staying at a Hilton or a Marriott. For example, I'm staying at the Waldorf Astoria Cancun, which is part of the Hilton chain. And I have a Hilton credit card that gets me automatic top tier status in Hilton, which saved me like $500 on food here. And also it got me about a $10,000 room upgrade during my stay, which was incredible just by having a simple credit card. So I know there's a credit card for Hilton that does this, and I know there's one for Marriott that does this, so be sure to check that out. The next thing you should not do is forget your sunscreen, because a lot of times the lobster people outnumber the regular people here. And if you don't bring sunscreen and you're going to a resort, it's going to be very expensive to buy it at a resort. It will probably be about $30, but you can find affordable sunscreen here at grocery stores, pharmacies, and a lot of times at convenience stores as well. A lot of Americans and Canadians love coming to Mexico and visiting one of these beautiful resorts, and I'm not knocking them. It is an awesome experience, but the next thing you should do is consider spending some time outside of a resort. For example, if you stay at a hotel in Playa del Carmen that isn't a resort, you're going to save a ton of money. You're probably still going to have an awesome time, and with all the money you saved, you'll be able to come back sooner. The next thing you should not do, this is a really important one, is do not exceed the duty-free limit for alcohol or tobacco products. I've gotten so many comments on this channel of people who have said they came into the Cancun airport exceeding the number of packs of cigarettes they were allowed to bring into the country and got totally screwed with massive fines. I remember one lady commenting saying she got hit with a $1,500 fine for exceeding the number of cigarette packs she was allowed to bring in. At that time, the limit was 10 packs of cigarettes per person, but they might have increased that, and if they have, I'll put the adjusted number on the screen right here. So let's say you're coming to the area for a week. I think one thing you should definitely do is take at least one day trip during your time here. So one thing you could do is like taking a catamaran tour to Isla Mujeres. So you get on this catamaran, a lot of times it's in Cancun, and then you'll sail around where it's unlimited booze while you're out there, and then you'll arrive at Isla Mujeres. You might have a couple hours to spend exploring Playa Norte and the shops there. It's a really cool experience and so much fun. Another recommendation I have for you is any of the Xcaret experiences. There's a reason Xcaret experiences are so popular, and it is because they are really great at making sure you have an awesome time. The next thing you should do is take into account the time of year you want to visit. The best weather of the year is going to be December to February, and the worst weather is probably August and September. However, pricing can be drastically different between the various months of the year. So going out to restaurants, the pricing is probably going to be the same no matter what time of year. However, the price of the hotels can vary so much. For example, I've seen a hotel on the beach in Tulum that's $100 a night during the low season and $700 a night during the most popular months. And the next thing you shouldn't do is if you're coming during one of the hotter months of the year, do not forget that staying beachfront makes all the difference in the world in terms of how comfortable you're going to be on your stay. Like, yeah, if you come in August or September, it's going to be super hot and really humid. And if you're not beachfront, it will be very uncomfortable weather. However, if you're beachfront, at least for me, it is still very enjoyable because that ocean breeze makes all the difference in the world. A lot of people think Mexico is just beaches and desert. And the next thing I think you should do is do come and enjoy Mexico's beautiful beaches. But at the same time, realize that's not all that Mexico is. I did live here in this area for a couple of years, but right now I'm living in central Mexico, and where I live, it's at higher elevation. The weather is beautiful all year round, and the city is about 500 years old, so it has this gorgeous colonial Spanish architecture all over the center of the city there. All I'm trying to say is there's a lot of other really awesome vacation destinations in Mexico that aren't at the beach. So if you come to Mexico and you see a price tag, don't get confused and think that it's in dollars, because the same symbol we use for a dollar in the US or in Canada, they use for the Mexican peso here. So all prices are going to be in Mexican pesos unless it's clearly marked otherwise, and it will say X amount of dollars or USD or something like that. And so you can easily do the conversion. For about the past 5 years, ever since I've been living in Mexico, the exchange rate has hovered around 20 pesos to $1. It's gotten as high as 25, as low as 17, but it's always been relatively close to 20 to 1. And for you to easily do a conversion from pesos to dollars, drop a zero, then divide by 2. For example, if it's 400 pesos, get rid of 1 0, it turns into 40, divide by 2, it's 20. So 400 pesos is $20. And do realize that all prices in Mexico already include a 16% sales tax. So if you ever see sales tax, add it on to something you're buying, add it on to the price that was on the menu or something like that. There's a good chance that they're trying to weasel a little bit of extra money out of you. The next thing you should do is, if you're going to a resort, arrange your airport transportation ahead of time, whether that's renting a cab or communicating with the hotel you're staying at and having them send a car for you. In fact, a lot of hotels and resorts include transportation to and from the airport. Or maybe this means booking private transportation. Booking private transportation is going to be so much better for you than taking a cab, because you're not going to be put into a high pressure sales situation with the people trying to sell you taxis, and you're going to have someone standing there with your name on it waiting for you after you walk out of the doors of the Cancun airport. And in addition to taking you to your hotel, they'll also stop by the grocery store for you, or stop by a convenience store so you can get some snacks and some liquor, maybe some other mixers for your trip, and it's going to make your trip a whole lot better. When we arrived in the Cancun airport, Mai said to me, "What a nightmare. This is worse than arriving in Vegas." And it is a nightmare. There's so many people. It's so hectic. There's so many people trying to sell you things and lie to you and scam you. Just trust me, you want to avoid it all and book that transportation ahead of time. I'll link to some transportation options down in the description below. The next thing you shouldn't do is don't let cops bully you if you're driving. This unfortunately is one of the parts of the country where it's more common to have police try to shake you down. But something you can do is, there is a law here that states that tourists here in Quintana Roo must be given a warning for minor infractions. So I'm going to link to something down in the description that you can print out a couple copies of before your trip. And if you ever get pulled over, just give that to the cop. It will say the name of the law and say in Spanish, and that is going to help you avoid a lot of the shakedowns. But in addition to that, something the cops look for here is people driving their rental car back to the Cancun airport. They specifically look for rental cars on the airport road, and a lot of the rental cars are marked so they'll know who's driving a rental car, because like you're going to the airport, you need to return your rental car pretty quickly, otherwise you could miss your flight. So they know that this is a perfect time for a shakedown. And that's why I think you should go down in the description of this video and look for the guy I recommend who rents cars, because his cars don't have anything that indicate it's a rental car. The next thing you shouldn't do is don't forget to bring a credit card that has 0 foreign transaction fees, because when you're here in Mexico, paying with a credit card is going to be your best option for getting hit with the least amount of foreign exchange fees. So if you like bring dollars and you go to a money exchanger, you're probably going to lose at 5 to 10% each way, converting into pesos and then back into dollars. Or if you bring a bunch of dollars and are paying with dollars everywhere, well then you're probably going to be taking about a 10% hit most of the time, because a lot of businesses really hit you on that exchange rate, because they're going to have to take your dollars and convert them back into pesos, which is going to cost them money. Granted, there are some businesses that don't keep up day to day with the exchange rate fluctuations, and sometimes it actually is better to pay in dollars, but that's the exception, not the rule. But having a credit card that has no foreign transaction fees is going to give you great exchange rates and allow your money to go a lot further when you're here on vacation. And if it charges foreign transaction fees, you're going to be charged an additional 3% on every single purchase. So look for the travel branded credit cards. Almost every single credit card that's branded as a travel card, whether that's through an airline or a hotel, it's probably not going to have foreign transaction fees, but you can always double check. Oh, and in terms of credit card, Visa and MasterCard are accepted pretty much everywhere, and American Express is accepted in like 90% of places around here. However, there are some places that will say, hey, if you want to pay with a credit card, it's going to be 3%, 4%, 5% extra. That's fairly common, especially in some small towns. For example, going to Isla Holbox, that was super common there. Almost every place that did accept credit cards charged a fee for doing so. But if you're in one of these most popular tourist destinations, so Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Puerto Morelos, Tulum, Cozumel, almost all the places here are going to accept credit cards, and most places do not charge an extra fee for doing so. The next thing you should do is subscribe to the channel and watch this video next.